Right, she lost an election, and now she's projecting. Hillary Clinton went on The View this week, which immediately raises a serious question. What's the weight capacity for that stage? But you'll never guess what she talked about. Her love of gardening, the things she does to stay healthy, how much she adores catching and cooking stray kittens. Nah, it was Donald Trump, as expected. But it's like I always tell Taylor Swift, girl, you gotta move on. Seriously, Trump doesn't just live in Hillary's brain. He's built a 500-unit condo with in-unit laundry and a rooftop lounge.
When Greg Gutfeld sets his sights, no towering figure in the political arena remains untouchable. And that includes Hillary Clinton. In a verbal takedown infused with cutting-edge wit and unflinching candor, Gutfeld strips away the polished facade of political performance to reveal the genuine Hillary hidden behind the practiced smirks and rehearsed sound bites. From the infamous email controversies to far-reaching international missteps, absolutely nothing is spared as he dismantles her public image with a sly grin and a proverbial mic drop. Brace yourself. This is far more than mere criticism. It's a full-scale comedic demolition.
Half of registered voters said any Republican would be better than President Biden, prompting one woman to legally change her name to N.E. Republican. In Washington, D.C., the giant grocery chain has announced a ban on large bags. Great, now where will I shop? Complains one large bag.
If you're enjoying this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now, picture this. You roll out of bed one morning, stretch your arms wide, take a slow sip from your wildly overpriced Starbucks latte and think to yourself, you know what? The world could really use more unrequested pearls of wisdom from Hillary Clinton because, of course, nothing quite says national unity like a political figure who has spent more hours dodging controversies than a streetwise raccoon darting through a garbage-strewn alley.
Hillary Clinton argues Joe should be, quote, direct and forceful, end quote, against Trump in the CNN debate. Yeah, direct and forceful, just like the noose I put around Epstein's neck. If I did it.
And right on cue, Greg Gutfeld decided to swing the wrecking ball for a full-speed spin. And let me tell you, folks, this wasn't just your average demolition. This was a Category 5 roast, complete with verbal firestorms, public theatrics, and all the grace of a wrecking ball tearing through a shop filled with fine porcelain. But let's not race too far ahead. We still have a Clinton to flam.
Warning signals that you were gonna lose? Well, too bad you didn't bother to visit the states you ended up losing, you potato-shaped wine bag. But would he even be worse now?
I think that he'd be even worse now.
Yeah.
Because he was somewhat restrained, believe it or not,
Wow.
in the first term by people who he hired because he thought they would go along with him, and they stood.
If political comebacks were an actual sport, Hillary Clinton would be the Michael Jordan of completely missing the basket every single time. Like a poorly written sequel nobody asked for. She resurfaces every 4 years, stepping out of the mist, in a freshly pressed pantsuit and an even fresher air of moral superiority. It's almost poetic if poetry were typed in Comic Sans by a boardroom full of consultants who collectively flunked their ethics exams.
And, they're going to try to ignore him for as long as they can because they're deathly afraid of him. And they're going to do to him what they did to me in the Democratic primary of 2020, which is pretend you don't exist. And then if people start noticing you, then they will try to smear and cancel and destroy him at all costs.
I remember what Hillary did to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and she's still standing.
Baseless smears that repeated over and over and over again by the propaganda media until people actually start to believe it, and it starts causing some real damage.
But on the bright side,
Let's take a leisurely stroll down memory lane, shall we? Back to those golden days when private email servers quietly hummed away in basements. Benghazi was merely another dot on the world map, and delete wasn't just a harmless button. It was practically a way of life. Because nothing says public trust quite like erasing 30,000 emails faster than a teenager frantically hiding text messages from their mom.
Asking Hillary what will happen if Trump is reelected, which is odd because Hillary's an expert on not getting elected. I wonder, does she think it would end our country as we know it?
I think it would be the end of our country as we know it. And I don't say that lightly. You know, I hated losing, and I especially hated losing to him because I had seen so many warning signals during the campaign.
Greg didn't hesitate for a second. His eyes gleamed with playful mischief. The political equivalent of dropping a handful of Mentos into a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke. Only this time, the Diet Coke was Hillary Clinton's carefully constructed legacy, and the Mentos were truth bombs generously coated in sarcasm. He didn't so much as blink. Instead, he calmly dismantled decades of meticulously crafted Clinton PR as if he were casually tearing open a bag of chips, flavor of the day, sour cream and electoral delusion. Care for a taste.
This is why lefties always get all the commencement addresses, and they love to spout their opinions on award shows because they know there's no journalist there that will ask them a question. And the reason why, and he's the perfect example, none of their opinions are actually real. They are all assigned.
Now, let's not overlook the 2016 election, otherwise known as the plot twist that rattled brunch tables across the nation. Hillary was supposed to win. That was the script. Everyone from Hollywood elites to the ghost of FDR had already drafted their congratulatory tweets, but in a glorious act of national unpredictability, the American public said, yeah, no, and Hillary, ho, she handled it beautifully. By beautifully, of course, I mean she spent the next 5 years penning memoirs, hitting the speaking circuit, blaming shadowy Macedonian meme factories, and starring in her own political rendition of It Wasn't Me by Shaggy, only in this version, Shaggy was replaced by a rotating roster of scapegoats: James Comey, sexism, the Russians, misogynistic Wi-Fi routers, gluten intolerance, and at one point, perhaps even gravity itself. Meanwhile, Gutfeld's roast didn't just pull punches, it threw haymakers. He dove in like a kid at Chuck E. Cheese with an endless supply of tokens. Every failed talking point, every reheated excuse, every lukewarm hot take from Hillary's post-election media tour.
And in the Democratic Party's pocket since Hillary stopped having sex.
That's like decades.
Yeah. Losing the union endorsement is like P. Diddy running out of baby oil. There's a whole lot of friction ahead. When Teamsters polled their members about the Dems' new candidate, Cackle's McKnee pads.
And of course, we can't skip over the Clinton Foundation, that shimmering beacon of, well, what exactly? Altruism, transparency, or perhaps just a cleverly packaged family enterprise, draped in the branding of a charity, but operating with the efficiency of a DMV engulfed in flames. Millions of dollars floated, yet somehow, the world remained stubbornly unfixed. Coincidence? Highly doubtful. Greg, brimming with the gleeful energy of a kid tearing open a gift wrapped in hypocrisy, wasted no time pointing out that Hillary's high-priced speeches to Wall Street weren't so much the words of an inspiring stateswoman as they were the scripted pleasantries of a customer service representative, reading off a gold-plated teleprompter, 6-figure paychecks to reassure banks that everything's just fine, essentially. The political equivalent of a lullaby sung to billionaires, and the audacity impeccable. With surgical precision, he stripped away the layers of her polished narrative, revealing an onion composed of ambition, ego, and a kind of ironic detachment you could cut with a knife. And yes, there were tears, but only from the audience, doubled over in hysterical laughter.
The alleged creator of the plan was Julianne Smith, a Clinton policy advisor that the unclassified Durham report refers to as Foreign Policy Advisor 1. And this woman, look how happy she is. She's like, I got away with everything. I nailed it. And then Obama made me the liaison to NATO. I mean, not Obama, Biden. Like I continue to get employed by these people because all I do is sit around and do the illicit bidding of my Democrat power boss.
Let's not overlook her sudden reinvention as a self-proclaimed champion of truth. The irony is almost overwhelming, considering this is coming from someone who once claimed to be dead broke, while simultaneously owning more property than the average monopoly board. Hillary's relationship with truth is like a vegan at a backyard barbecue, awkward, tense, and riddled with contradictions, yet somehow, she still manages to frame herself as a beacon of moral clarity in politics. That's the equivalent of being the designated driver at a demolition derby. Sure, it sounds responsible, But you're still smack in the middle of the wrong event. Greg's takedown of this image was so precise, so unflinching. It felt like watching a roast on the History Channel, educational, but with punchlines. He smoothly reminded the audience that Hillary has been wrapped up in more scandals than most daytime soap operas, only with far worse acting. Every attempt at relatability feels like it's been carefully signed off by a focus group and beta tested on lab rats for believability, sipping beer at a dive bar.
This one is wild. This is Hillary Clinton in like 2008, and Hillary Clinton saying some wild MAGA type shit.
Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they...
She's a Republican.
If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
You have to wait in line. You have to wait in line. It's
You couldn't believe that.
illusion.
But the kicker, the piece de resistance of this entire roast, came when Gutfeld casually lobbed a rhetorical Molotov cocktail about Hillary Clinton's uncanny talent for making any situation worse, simply by endorsing it, back a candidate. They lose, support a policy, it crashes and burns. It's as if she's been hexed by the gods of irony. If Hillary publicly supported gravity, objects might just start floating away out of spite. Meanwhile, over at Clinton HQ, the game plan seems set in stone. Deny everything, deflect constantly. And for the love of all things politically sacred, never, ever, accept responsibility. It's like watching a magician whose only trick is making inconvenient things disappear. Emails. Accountability. Credibility. Now, is it unfair to pin every political calamity on Hillary? Probably. Is it entertaining? Absolutely, because watching someone who's been in politics since the days of dial-up internet still try to market herself as the fresh face of change is like watching a VHS
Hillary Clinton, of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
She, first of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate. He was an
Greg didn't even break a sweat. He simply laid out the facts with a level of sarcasm sharp enough to cut deeper than a tax audit. The best part, Hillary wasn't even in the room to respond. She didn't have to be. The roast was cooked too. Perfection, the kind of well done that even Gordon Ramsay might begrudgingly applaud. And yet, like the recurring antagonist in a political sitcom, she'll be back. Probably just in time to drop another memoir titled You Thought I Was Done. Spoiler alert, she wasn't. The saga marches on. Because as long as Hillary keeps stepping into the public spotlight, with all the elegance of a malfunctioning Roomba, there will always be people like Gutfeld ready to hand her a microphone, and then set the stage ablaze, and we'll be here, popcorn in hand, watching the slow-motion train wreck that is political ambition, completely unburdened by self-awareness. After all, nothing screams I'm done with politics quite like popping up in every news cycle like a haunted political Furby, and those endless interviews.
Doesn't mean that Hillary would have been a good choice either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office. They were trying to get people to be supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. Women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician, completely full of shit. She's been full of shit forever.
She appears in a meticulously chosen blazer, delivers a few sentences dripping with passive-aggressive wisdom, and smiles like she's just remembered where she buried the bodies, figuratively. Of course, probably, but what elevates it from mere performance to political art is the way the crowd solemnly nods, as if she's just solved world hunger in under 15 seconds with a sound bite. She'll say things like, "We need to protect democracy," which, coming from her, lands less like a rallying cry and more like a suspicious fishing a male dressed up as a TED Talk. There's always this underlying act, as if the real tragedy is that democracy failed her, not the other way around. Meanwhile, Greg's roast didn't just poke holes in that narrative, it tore the whole facade clean off, hurled it into the Hudson River, and then passed out binoculars so the audience could watch it drift away. He resurfaced all the things polite society prefers to conveniently forget, including those pesky donor pay-to-play allegations, but the true kicker, Gutfeld laid it all out with a grin that practically shouted, "I read the footnotes, too." And he did it every single time Clinton.
How dare she? She puts out this tweet, and it's a picture of her a much younger Hillary. And the caption on the hat reads, "But her emails." And she writes in her tweet, "Bringing this back in light of recent news. Get a limited edition But Her Emails hat and support Onward Together groups working to strengthen our democracy." The nerve of this woman to have committed federal crimes and to have gotten off because James Comey didn't have the spine to bring it.
Greg reminded America that she's less Jedi Master and more disgruntled corporate HR rep with a grudge and a chronic Gmail problem, and the audience devoured it. Why? Because, for once, someone said out loud what most people only mutter under their breath at Thanksgiving dinner, that the entire Hillary Clinton political saga has devolved into a never-ending PowerPoint presentation of contradictions, champion of women, unless they accuse someone she happens to like, defender of truth, unless that truth comes neatly packaged in a subpoena, fighter for the people. Sure, as long as they're pre-approved donors with a solid Wi-Fi connection. But here's the most exquisite irony of it all. After decades of branding, rebranding, sidestepping, and strategically timed silences, Hillary Clinton still manages to overlook the one thing that might have salvaged her public image: genuine humility. The roast, as savage as it was, worked because it held up a mirror she has spent her entire career avoiding. And when the smoke cleared, when the final punchline landed and the audience finally stopped gasping for air between laughs, only one thing remained standing: the truth, not the polished, consultant-approved version, but the raw, unfiltered reality that maybe, just maybe, Hillary Clinton isn't the misunderstood savior of democracy she believes herself to be. Maybe she's simply the loudest voice in the room who can't take a hit. Because when it comes to political drama, Hillary doesn't just bring the tea, she is the tea. Bitter, oversteeped, and utterly impossible to ignore. And trust us, the kettle is still whistling.